Let's pull the mic up, and good evening and welcome to Talking Baseball Australia. Dan Vaughan with you, Paul Morgan. It's that time of week again. That's right, that time of week again. Time to roll the open and time to sail out of baseball time in Australia with Talking Baseball Australia. We're on the air in 3, 2, and 1. Here we go.
It's Talking Baseball Australia. It's baseball updates you'll really love. The MLB and ABL news you want. With Paul Morgan and Dan Vaughan. It's baseball's best mate all year round. From the batter's box.
Well, and welcome to the show. You're a little something right there, but I think we're all good, all ready to go. And my partner in crime here on Talking Baseball Australia will join me as well. He's joining us in the West. I am here in Dallas. And mate, first off, can you hear me?
I can. We sound like we're making progress here.
We sound like we actually know what we're doing. It's very scary today. First off, good to see you. We got the memo. Both wore the Navy today, the Navy kits today. I think that I didn't get the memo, but apparently we're both looking good.
Yeah, no. Well, Navy Fridays. Maybe that's a new thing.
Yes,
Navy Friday. Well,
Navy Fridays, something like that. Sunny day in the West. Sun just set in Texas. Just a little dusk here, and the lightning bugs on a July evening and a morning in Australia. Glad you guys are along. The show's Talking Baseball Australia, and we're talking baseball from an Australian point of view, but also I'll give you a little MLB. We're kind of in that. Partner, we're kind of in that mode right now where things are sort of, the engine's kind of humming, but nothing's really taken off yet. There's not a lot going on, but there is a lot going on behind the scenes, especially from a couple of Australian guys. We're going to get to that, talk a little bit about that. But are you ready? Are you getting closer? Because this weekend we're actually going to see some sort of spring training, summer training 2.0. You ready for that this weekend?
I am. I watched a little bit of a couple of the clubs. I watched something with Toronto. They had, I think, all the clubs are playing inter-squad games this week, which was a bit weird to see. Teams all with the same kit playing each other, but nonetheless, it was good for the. It was good because it was also the broadcasters ironing out their kinks as well, and it's it'll be very exciting, DV, as of next week to have baseball on the TV in the morning. It'll be very, very exciting. So
yeah, we're going to talk a bit about that. We are looking good. My wife said we're looking very good. Thank you very much. And by the way, you guys can question, comment, and jump in as we chat around here. But first off, my question for you guys is out there. This is what I'm going to throw out to you guys. You got a chance to start your Major League Baseball team, and I'm going to ask Paul this a little bit, and he can ask me. It's 2020. It's this season, okay? We're not 21. We're not 19. We're 2020, and I just given you the keys to the kingdom. You can do what you want to do, but you've got to start your own team. What's the first thing you build? What's your first building block? And you want to start with that? Do you have an idea what your first building block might be? If I've just given you the new team in Toronto's second team, or no, you got the Expos now. You're now the Expos.
Yeah, the Expo. Okay.
So so what are you going to do? The first thing you're going to do?
Maybe in a 60-game season, DV, maybe the importance of a lights-out closer is the first thing that you might need. I mean, your starting pitchers are probably only going to get 12 starts. So, yes, that's important, but that's potentially only 12 wins on the board. But I reckon I'd go out to the free market and get myself a lights-out closer would be the first thing I'd do. What about you, DV?
Yeah, I'm right there with you.
The Texas Wombats.
Yeah, I'm thinking I'm along the same lines with you, and I think we're on the same page here. It's the bullpen. I think in this sprint, we've seen it so many times. How many times the ABL have we seen this in game 3 of a series on the weekend where the bullpen's either taxed because the rotation was scuffling or the closer's scuffling? You've got to have some depth down there. You almost have to have guys that can be fifth starters that can also be setup men. You really need some depth. And I would it's why guys like, we look at the ABL, it's why a guy like Daniel Schmidt's so valuable. A guy can relief and start. That's what I do. I build my ball club with the deepest pitching staff. Remember, you're going to get extra positions as well. So why not make the most of it and carry yourself 13 guys down or 14-man pitching staff, 15-man pitching staff when you normally might carry 11 or 12. So I think that I would definitely do what you do. I'm right there with you, partner. That It is the good to see Melinda out there as well. I would definitely build it from the back end. That's the question. So what we're going to do is as people join us over the course of the year, we go forward, we're going to try to fire these little poll questions off and get folks kind of involved there. What we're going to talk about besides that today, MLB update, American Association, a couple of T-Bones, not T-Bones, pardon me, ABL. Got T-Bones in my mind here. I did a radio show today with the T-Bones for 3.5 hours, and I almost said T-Bones 1,000 times. Although I did say your name, buddy, but little that, and of course our knee jerks and some of the things going on. But let's jump into the MLB. We just mentioned the schedule this weekend that we're going to see, because all we've been seeing of the highlights, at least here, like I've got MLB Network on behind me with the natural, but all I saw all week on their highlight reel was, here's the Yankees taking BP. Here's the Cubs taking BP. Oh, the Angels are taking BP. Oh, the Rangers are taking BP. And then they scroll, so-and-so's got COVID, so-and-so tested positive, so-and-so tested. That's all we've been seeing. So finally we're going to see something besides guys playing in their squad games. Do they mean as much now? I kind of think they mean, I guess my question is, don't they mean a little bit differently? Because back in March, you were actually kind of in a groove to get going for opening. You're getting close to the spring training. Now, just trying to get the rust off again for the second time.
Well, I think it's been more of a case of, and I think we spoke about it last week, it's been more of a case of like, oh, that's right, that guy plays there now. He plays there. Oh, that's right. When did that happen? I mean, even we're talking a little bit later about Trevor Bauer, but, in the piece that he wrote on the Players Tribune, and it's sort of like, I know David Price opted out, but I forgot Mookie Betts in a way. I thought, oh, that's right, he's at the Dodgers now, and all these things. So for me, it's been a bit of a catch-up to kind of make yourself not seem like a total fool when it all rolls around and start going, well, who's where and why? But, nothing really interesting. Probably the only thing of note really was Masahiro Tanaka getting the line drive from Stanton in the Yankees, but that was really the only thing outside of everyone testing COVID positive.
That's kind of just the lay of the land. I think we just saw at dinner time over here in the States, Central Time, they announced that two things. In Texas, they announced that they were going to start school after Labor Day. And then number two, the NFL had like 74 players get tested positive as well. That doesn't mean they were sick. So that's kind of the lay of the land right now, at least in this country right now. Yes, very funny, Mom. Good vino in the concession stand. Oh, you would have hired Joe Pietra, the Australian Baseball League. Speaking of T-Bones, the manager of the T-Bones. Very fun, Mom. I didn't know you're still up in the Eastern time zone. It's
the problem is though the good vino. There's no one there to drink it.
No, not at all. You mentioned Trevor Bauer, and first off, more players are opting out. I don't think that's news anymore, and I think everybody has their reasons. And it wouldn't shock me that you're going to see guys. Let's say we play the first 20 games. They say, you know what, the guys on both sides of my locker have got it, and they're sick, and I'm thinking, you know what. It ain't worth it. I mean, I think you might see that scenario, but I'm not upset with anybody opting out. I mean, don't you? You're a family guy. You got to opt out of it. I mean, you have to, right? If you're watching.
I think, and look, I mean, I'll be honest. I mean, I think you'll be interesting to see what happens here now. Like Victoria and Australia, obviously a bit of a real mess, corona-wise now. So there'll be some there's different people in sports here wanting to opt out in the Melbourne clubs and whatnot, but. Look, I think there'll be so many more. I think there'll be so many more people opt out. And as I say, I think you might see a guy like we talked last week about Alan D. San Miguel from originally Perth and Melbourne, who's ending up with the Royals. You'll probably end up seeing him play a handful of games because I think it'll just be the dominoes will start falling. And I think once you're spot on. If you're sitting in a locker room and the guy next to you's just had COVID, and the guy two lockers down's got COVID, and you've got some kids at home, and you might kind of go, well. Is this worth it? I think it's and the guys on longer term deals, you could probably go, well, like if I've got a 5-year deal with the club, like maybe I'm happy to sacrifice this year and then just kind of, come back and spend the next 4 years at the club. But it's still, I think I'm still with you. We've talked about it a couple of times. How this thing still goes ahead without a complete wheels off mess is beyond me.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. And you mentioned Trevor Bauer. That was our next topic. He had a real good piece in the Players Tribune. I know you saw that, and he's been really outspoken, maybe the most outspoken as far as frankly, and he had some very interesting ideas that he threw out there as a player. Because we didn't hear much from the owners. The owners didn't say squat during the whole thing, except they spoke for the league, and the league would say, Manfred would say what he had to say to the soundbite. We're trying, we're working it out, we're going to try, we have deadline, all this nonsense. Then the league, the union would say, but the players didn't say a lot. But one guy who did was Bauer, and I thought that, and I'm summarizing his piece in the Tribune, the Players Tribune, but he said the negotiations were like a fourth grade food fight. Now, what that is you're in year 4 and you're in your lunchtime with all your mates, and all you decide you're going to throw you throw the snacks around the room at each other. That's what it is. Food fight. That's what he described the negotiations. I don't know if that bodes real well for the future in 2021 if Major League Baseball negotiations are a fourth grade food fight.
No, and I think we said it the other week. It was literally like, the kids were fighting, and then mum and dad had to step in and sort it out. And I think, there's arbitration coming up as well. And clearly the relationship between the two is a total mess. But Bauer, I think, is that guy. I mean, I think he's just about to turn 30. He was a former first-round draft pick, I think number 3 overall for the Cardinals, spent time at the Indians, now over at the Reds. He's been the most vocal. I see it on Twitter as well. He's starting him and Kurt Schilling are going at it on Aubrey
I saw
Huff.
that. That's a whole show. That's a whole show in itself. I want to see those two guys in a steel cage match, right?
So it's so there's a whole thing with it. Like he is, but look, he's probably the voice of that, I guess, millennial group coming through that's probably got enough skins on the board to kind of suggest that he's potentially knows what he's talking about, and as I say, he is a first round draft pick as well, so he kind of has a bit more clout about him. But look, I started off with Bauer as kind of not really liking him, but I come full circle, and I'm actually quite a fan of what he's doing and the way he's sort of going about it. And I don't know if anyone saw, but he had when baseball got first cancelled, he started a Sandlot game as well with a couple of guys down in Arizona. So I think he's doing a lot of good for the game. And look, it's great that there's people can have an opinion still, because we live in a world where saying the wrong thing slightly is you're going to be, people find that out. People find that out every day.
Oh yeah, they do, and I think he's. Well, my next point he said, and I'm skipping through the article. I'm not going to go through the whole thing point by point, but I brought up 4 points he really talked about in his article he wrote, and he basically says, and I am quoting here. I don't think any pitchers are going to be able to abide by the no licking the fingers rule, honestly. And I mean, here's a guy on the mound. He knows, the pitchers, it's part of the whole bit. Everybody, spitting in baseball and licking the fingers, that's part of it, right? It's part of it. He basically says that's what we're not going to be able to follow. That's one of the only protocols we won't be able to follow. At least he's honest, because I think he's right on. No pitcher's going to follow that.
No, and I think it's all habit, though, isn't it, DV? Yeah. And if it's like if a pitcher's in the groove and they're doing that, then if they don't do that, what will happen? Yeah. They won't do it. They'll give up a home run. Then that's it. Then the superstition's blown, and they'll have to do it 100 times. And so look, I don't know how. We talked about last week. If the double play balls turn, that ball's out of there. If the ball's touched by a couple of people, it's out of there. I get the reasoning and the rationale behind it. Look, maybe it's just a bottle of sanitizer on the mound that just sits on the mound, and before every pitch you just
sunflower seeds and up and just spray your hands and be done with it.
Away you go.
He also talked about the bad deal for the fans. I don't get it. I know, and here's what I love about the Australian Baseball League. Here's what I love about the guys we deal with in the wintertime. They get it. I'm not saying baseball players in general don't get it, but you've got such a union issue but a guy like Bauer who's driving at the freeway on a Zoom call on a national show, that's what he does. And I think that he understands that the fans are very important, and baseball's done some things to the fans, and this is one of them, and the fans got the short on the stick. He mentioned that. And then the final thing he mentioned that I thought was interesting that really stood out, remember back 6 months ago when we were sitting in Canberra and chatting about what would go on when the Astros played whoever. Oh, by the way, the Astros still have not played since this whole trash can gate came out. We don't forget that actually still out there. Just we haven't seen it. We just suddenly forgotten about it. Oh, by the way, no one's forgotten about that either. And Bauer is sure to remind folks that, oh, by the way, it's still around.
Well, there was that whole conspiracy theory that the Astros were the ones that actually created coronavirus to get out of this whole entire season. So, I mean, that did the rounds for a little while. But
yes, that's
yeah,
true.
look, I think they've sort of, like it's hard to kind of go, like in a world before coronavirus come, it's hard to sort of go, oh, that's right, that whole trash can gate thing existed. But boy, I mean, I still think there'll be a few, a few beanballs thrown at a couple of players there, and. But look, they're probably fortunate that they're not playing in front of fans, because I think it would have been a real tough time. But and the other thing that I thought was interesting about Bauer's issue was he talked about the Dodgers and how they traded the farm system for guys like Mookie Betts who are out of contract as well. And that, like I think it's the same with the health system. Like baseball and everything, the fallout may not be seen until 2023, but there are so many things that are just a total mess at the moment, and one of them is player transactions.
Yeah, you're right on about that, because even though there's little like for example, there's a couple pieces of news. Going to see Don out there, Adam Dodd and Sydney Luke. Good to see you in Victoria. Good to see you folks over in Australia watching us here on Talking Baseball Australia Live. Yeah, there was a couple things today. There was a news piece in the States about an airline, not a merger, but an airline alliance, and everybody's like, well, that's great news and all for when things get back to normal. But by the time that alliance works, it's going to be 22, 23. And all of us are like that. We're all kind of going through that same place, because we're not, minor league baseball as it is sits on the ice. The American, independent ball right now is sort of limping along on one leg. Everything's like that. So you're spot on about that, partner. But two, the schedule thing, and this goes back to Bauer and goes back to what we're going to get to in a minute after this little segment, is the schedule thing. I didn't realize this until today. It dawned on me, let's just check the TV schedules. I pulled the TV schedule up for the weekend. I saw the normal spring training 2.0 games. Then you have opening night, which is going to be great. Opening night's going to have, I believe, you're going to be able to watch basically baseball from about 3 in the afternoon till midnight, and depending what time zone you're in. You can basically watch 3 games before you go to bed opening night. And then they go to the normal schedule from there, where the NBA, which also begins a week after Major League Baseball, they're actually going to have doubleheaders on all kinds of doubleheaders on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and national doubleheader windows. You get 2, sometimes 3 games in the weekend. You might even get 4 on a weekend on a weekend day. Is Major League Baseball missing the point? I think they're missing the point of just saying, you know what, it's 2020. We're in the COVID world. All bets are off. Let's just flood the thing with some TV games. I know the public, I know Australian fans are watching the footy. American fans and worldwide fans are watching they're watching Korean baseball over here in the States. They never knew it existed. So I'm thinking they missed a huge chance by not scheduling a Friday night double dip, maybe an East-West double dip. They're just blowing it off and saying, yeah, so the NBA is going to steal their thunder again. How about that?
Well, I think like baseball's in a real bad spot, because I mean, you think about it. You got the NBA coming back, which is basically the postseason. There's a little bit of a run up, and then it's the postseason. You got NHL ice hockey coming back, which is basically a little bit of a run up, and then it's the postseason. You got regular season baseball. Now, your average punter, if they're not diehard baseball fan, like, what's more interesting to watch, a regular season baseball game or NHL playoff game or an NBA playoff game? Like, of course, the playoff games are far more interesting than the regular season games. So I'm with you, though. I think they had an opportunity to start going, maybe we do triple headers in the day. Maybe you do the lunchtime special and then the after work special and the nightcap. And that's probably what they should have done, because I think they'll struggle big time in that market. I think that'll be also the flooding of sports. I think to give it an Australian perspective, I think that's going to be ABL's biggest challenge, is when all these sports try to catch up with themselves and there's just sport on sport on sport on sport. Someone's going to get squeezed out.
Yeah, somebody's going to get squeezed out.
I think MLB is 100% going to get squeezed out, because, I mean, I lived in that market for long enough. You live over there, you know that. And then you got this. Then you've got, okay, so you can navigate through past NBA, you can maybe navigate past NHL, but then you got the behemoth of NFL coming behind you that you just got zero hope.
Which doesn't, and that's the one thing that's sitting on the horizon in North America. they don't need fans. The NFL
No.
doesn't. Their TV dollars are so. Now, granted, the owners want to make money,
Yeah.
and they want to sell those $10 beers at Jerry World or at Arrowhead or the new stadium in Vegas. They built the Vegas stadium's brand new. The LA stadium's brand new. They got to pay those bills. But that being said, the 90% of NFL fans never attend a ball game, so it's not a must to go to a game. Where baseball plays such a long schedule, you need those tickets and you need that revenue. And that's something they've not done. And segueing into this thing too, I think they're missing the mark with the schedule and having really just flooding the thing right now in the summer because there's a starvation award. But people kind of joked about having, and this is what I'm talking about, these outside the box things. A home run derby to decide extra innings and shorten the ball game. And I thought it was interesting. I found this morning. I was listening to WFAN in their sister station in Pittsburgh, and I'm going to put this on the screen for you guys. I want you guys to hear the comments this morning. This is from Joe Musgrove, the reliever of the Pittsburgh Pirates, courtesy of WFAN in New York as well. And he basically is asked in the conversation, what do you think about this whole maybe doing a home run derby? Here's what I had to say.
Yeah, I mean, you bring up a great point. I mean, that's pure entertainment. It's the one-on-one challenge you see in hockey. All the eyes are on one guy. And I think it'd be exciting. Ultimately, that's what it seems like Manfred and MLB is trying to do is enhance the excitement of the game and the intensity and the enjoyment for fans to watch, the pure entertainment. And I think that would be a lot of fun. For the fans to watch. And I think it'd be a better alternative than starting a runner at second base. So if I had the choice between the two, I guess I'd probably take the home run derby than starting a runner at second.
Home run derby. Are you all for that part? Would that be would that increase TBIs? I would think that would. Is that just two wheels off? That too off the wall there?
No, I don't think so. And I think I think it's the time that you start doing like in the 3-point comp in basketball when they have the golden ball at the end that's worth a couple of extra. Why not each inning? Why not the pitcher have to have a different color ball or something that if they hit a home run, it's a 3-run home run instead of a solo shot? Why not? And you've said it as well. This is the time that you may as well do things that probably are a little bit wheels off, but you do it anyway because the whole season's wheels off anyway, and probably whoever wins the World Series, no one's ever going to probably say that it was well earned. Probably people are just going to blow it off anyway. So why not? And why not do that? Why not do things like in extra innings? Why not remove Why not remove an outfielder and an infielder and put the runner on second base? And, you might as well try. I mean, if it's and again, it's probably if you get 2 outs and then the next out comes up and the ball is the golden ball, that's going to be far more interesting for someone to watch than not. Like it's small ideas that you traditionalists will go, you can't do that to the game, but it's a reason to keep watching. And it's baseball's a very easy game to tune in and out of.
Oh yeah, well that's the beautiful thing. We've talked about this about radio. Well, you and I love radio so much because baseball, you can it kind of comes and goes with you during the day. You run to the store, you grab your gallon of milk and some chips and maybe a 6-pack. You come back, maybe you run down the pub real quick, grab your quick bite, come back, and the game's in the car. You go in the backyard, kick it for a bit. You got the radio going and your headphones. I mean, it's kind of that behind. It's kind of like the game of baseball on the radio and the way it's always been. It's kind of like the soundtrack in the back of your own personal movie. If you're a sports fan, you're kind of it's your own personal Academy Award winning soundtrack, so to speak. And it's one of those deals where more folks into it's a good thing, I would think. By the way, speaking of folks, there's Wendy D'Souza out there, our old mate. And also, I don't know who's Huey and Louie, Harold, but I'll take that compliment, sir. I'll take it. Good to see you. Good morning to you guys.
It's not those two grumpy guys from the Muppets.
The two old guys. I love this today. I love seeing this today, and I don't know if you guys saw this. I think the next big star who played in the ABL is going to be playing in Seattle. Is playing in Seattle. Jake Fraley, a couple of years ago, was hands down the best player in the ABL, the best import player that's come through. I wouldn't be shocked when it's all said and done that he is one of those guys that we look back and say that is the best player played in the ABL the last 10, 15 years. I'm going to put this on the screen and show you guys what Seattle thinks of him right there. And I'm actually going to see if I can move this around for you guys to get a better shot of it. But he was 8 days to opening day. Actually, partner, I'm going to put you down just for a moment. So don't panic. You're still there. I'm going to give the fans a shot of this on the screen, the entire screen here. There it is right there. There is Jake, as he is the guy, the Seattle face, I guess, 8 days to opening day 2020. And he is, they're going to be playing at Minute Maid down in Houston. And Jake, I was on the Twitter toy today, saw Seattle's feed, and saw that Jake was there. And how about that, partner? I mean, Jake Fraley, just a couple of years ago, was toting his young son and wife across the ABL with us. We were traveling with him, getting to know him, stealing bases at an alarming rate. And there he is now, the Seattle's one of those faces that they're promoting. How about that, man?
And he might be one of the guys that this 60 season suits perfectly.
Oh.
And you would you'd pretty much guarantee he's the guy that's going to start on second base in extra innings for the Mariners. But yeah, I'm with you though. I think you could look back and in 20 years you could possibly look back and say, well, was he when his big league career is over, he could very well be. He could very, very well be the best player that the ABL has ever seen. And I think he was phenomenal for the Heat, and certainly, what did he steal? 44 bags from memory.
Yeah.
Was phenomenal then, and probably, and we've said it all along, if Fraley and Brosseau stick around that season, there's no chance that he didn't win the championship that year.
And just to refresh you guys' memory, Fraley had his grandmother-in-law passed away, or was actually didn't pass away then, but was sick and not doing well, didn't have a lot of time left from the story, and he actually did a phenomenal video. I got to dig that up and catch that again. We posted it there, but he did a phenomenal thank you to the fans. He wanted to stay. He was torn, but he's a real big family guy, and he's one of those character guys. And yeah, you're right. And that, I guess really it all started to go downhill that Adelaide day. And I was telling that story the other day, the game in Adelaide that when I said, well, there's your MVP for the year, the Adelaide reliever that just plucked Brosseau. And then things went south from there that they did make the postseason. But good to see that. That's good for the ABL. We're going to talk more about some good of the ABL stuff as we move to the ABL news segment of the show here. And free agency, when we first started the ABL, and I saw Luke a moment ago who was tuned in, he comes to mind as a guy that is sort of in that same realm, a guy that's taken his show somewhere else. But when I first came to the ABL, it was really it was unheard of for a guy to go play anywhere else. They would play for their state team, and that was it. And they'd play for they'd play for Perth, and or for their local club team. They'd play for the Heat, and they wouldn't go anywhere else except for they went to the States. And now the ABL now has become, it's commonplace now to see guys bouncing around. And we saw a name, member of Team Australia, Todd Van Stensel, a guy that played in the States last year, would have played in the States this year if things would have worked out for him with the situation and bringing imports with the American Association. But he is now a Adelaide Giant. How about that, huh?
Yeah, I think that the probably, if you're an ABL fan, the biggest plus from all of it is the fact that it's a positive move to indicate that the season may well go ahead. I mean, that's probably, for me, it was, look, it makes sense for him to go to Adelaide. But the funny part with, when D-Sam was probably, I think D-Sam went before Luke, didn't he? And
yeah, he did.
Like D-Sam was such a Perth guy. It was sort of like when he went obviously for personal reasons, but you kind of went, oh wow, he's a real franchise player. And Van Stensel is probably the most Sydney Blue Sock of Blue Sock at the moment. So it was interesting to see him go, but good pickup for the Giants. They were obviously pretty close last season. A good pickup for them. And we talked about it just moments ago about the importance of building your bullpen in short seasons. So big tick for the Giants. And but the biggest tick, I think, is the fact that it's a good positive sign that things might happen in Australia next season, because there hasn't really been a lot of news about the ABL in terms of really much at all in terms of there's obviously no schedule at the moment, which is not unusual for this time of the year. But there's still a lot of things are up and down. But this is just a positive sign in the right direction.
Yeah, and I want to read you guys what he said. I don't know if you can make it out on the screen, but I'll read it to you. I thought his Twitter comments were great. This is a guy who's very engaging in social media. He really knows the lay of the land, and he was great with this in his time when St. Paul last year. Loved having the American Association. I'm going to read you what he said here. He just tells the Blue Sox fans, since 2010, I've taken the utmost pride in putting on the Blue Sox jersey and playing in front of you in Blue Sox Stadium. Heading into 2021 ABL season, I'll be calling a new stadium home, as I've decided to make the tough decision to not return to the Blue Sox. Although my baseball journey in Australia I'll be wearing new colors. The memories made in Blue Sox uniform won't be forgotten. It's been a privilege to play for you the last 10 years, and I think that's really a cool thing to see. A young man who, he doesn't have to do that, but I think that's what makes our league special, partner. I think those are the kind of things that you see from fans. I remember when Luke and D-San came back, to Perth over the last couple of years, and how important it was for them to acknowledge the fans and how the class they showed. And I think that's a huge deal. I don't think that players in baseball in general get that. I think the ABLers, though, man, they get it. And to see those guys and to see that, he didn't have to do that, but that seemed like a pretty heartfelt tweet, and I think he sent a great message to the Blue Sox faithful.
I agree. He was very popular, obviously, with the Sydney folk, and I think a lot of people probably in Sydney would have been, that may not have been privy to it, might have been a little shocked to see him go, because he's such a part of that team and that culture. But it's a classy move, and wish him nothing but that. I think he'll do really well in Adelaide. I think that's a good team for him to go to, and I think they will be a very, very, very good team next year, the Adelaide Giants, if the season goes ahead. But that's my take on it.
The whole free agent thing, though, I think it's good for the ABL. And I said this. I got to dig the show up. It was back on our Sport FM show. 2012 or so, or 13. It may have been the next year, but I remember talking about this on our Wednesday show on the radio in Perth, how I envisioned a time where you had more movements amongst teams. And I found it odd as an outsider that players didn't, for example, go and play for Brisbane or for Canberra or vice versa, come across the country and play for Perth. I didn't quite understand that, because from my baseball background, it was, you might be from Dallas, but you might play in Philadelphia. I mean, it's just the way it worked. But we're seeing a change. I think that speaks two things. A, the league is growing, and baseball's got a lot more talent. And I think, two, that the league is growing up, that it's also having a more nationwide reach. I think this is a stepping stone I think you can build upon using ABL free agency. What are your thoughts on that?
It'd be awesome. I mean, it's obviously a private ownership league now, and it would be great. I think it'd be great to see more guys, but because it'd also be great that guys can go to, say, from Perth to Sydney or Melbourne or wherever, getting paid, really good money to go and play baseball at these teams. And I think that's the next natural progressive thing. I mean, you've got a group of owners around the country that are wealthy people, and it might be time, DV, just to kind of start paying the players a little bit more than chip money, and really start elevating the profile of the sport, because I think they've got the ability to do it. So why not?
Well, how about this one? I know you saw this one over the course of the last 24 hours. This is the most recent news, besides the Todd Van Stencil move, is the Aaron Whitefield getting added to the 60-man for the Twins. A guy that, you were talking about earlier about how Jake Fraley could be that guy at second base. This is a guy with expanded rosters. And you say, I need a guy that can go get it, a guy that can go the outfield and make a play. And when I think of him, I don't think of his 73 league RBIs, over his career in the ABL, or his 17 is going and getting it. The going in that, just the ability to cover ground, his ability to make plays, crazy plays, plays like this. Let me roll. Do you guys remember this one right here? Let me show it to you. I mean, look at that one. I mean, that's ridiculous. The highway robbery, that was in Brisbane a couple of years ago. It was last year in Brisbane. That's the final out of a ball game going to a knee. And then who can forget this one? This is the one against Cuba that sends the game to extra innings. Back, still going. Yeah, there he is. And who's right there? There he is. Tim Cannell to help him up. And then, they're Todd's really like, you bet. And then you got this play happened in spring training last year. Remember this? In spring training as he goes banging into the wall, head first, banging into the wall. I mean, this is a guy that gives his body up and can go get it. And I like this, because it's great to have an Australian in the 60-man with the Twins. But here's a guy that I think outside of maybe, I can't think of anybody else I can think of that's played in the ABL that is as good a defensive outfielder as that guy is. Is there anybody you can think of in the last, since the year leagues restarted, that is that good of an outfielder defensively?
He is very, very good. Nothing comes to mind. I mean, there've been a lot of good guys out there. I think Tim Kennelly was always really quite handy out as a right fielder. He was always really handy, and defensively always strong. But yeah, I think from an up and coming point of view, there's no one better than Whitefield in the country by far. And it's good to see as well, like that connection to the Twins again, because of course you had Hughesy and Liam Hendricks and James Beresford and obviously got Lewis Thorpe there at the moment, and so it's nice to see another sort of guy added to the Twins. And I still think the Twins are going to win the World Series. I've said that all along. I still feel like they're going to win the World Series, but hopefully they win the World Series, because I'll put a long-term bet on the Twins to do it. So I'll be very, very happy if they do. But I think they're a good spot. I mean, that ALC, the American League Central, they should win that division, I think.
I think you're right. I think it's going to be a fun race there. But I think that was one that, I mean, their competition's nowhere near as deep in that division. I think they've got a good chance to really take care of that thing. I mean, I think you're right on. I would not be shocked to see them go wire to wire. In a small sample size, they've had some really good numbers the last couple of years. I saw an article about that in the Minneapolis Star Tribune a couple of days ago. They were talking about how, and that's kind of how it works in the ABL. And we've talked about this on my other shows in America here with independent ball, playing a shorter season, that these small sample sizes, 40 games, 50 games, those little sprints, some teams had some phenomenal numbers in those sprints, and the Twins have been one of those teams over the course of the last few years have had some sprints that have been just dominating, and that may be all it takes for a team to win it all, is have a sprint that no one else has, and has a giddy up, and they got that kind of club. And it's interesting to note, I think it's not crazy, but interesting to note that you've got Whitefield and Thorpe, both with the Twins organization. So two of your four Australians that are playing in the 60-man pool, which includes the big league roster of Liam Hendricks and, of course, Alan D. San Miguel, which I'll talk about him in a moment. Two of the four are in the Twins organization. So I guess good on them, huh?
Maybe they're Australia's pick now, the Twins, eh? Maybe the nation should get behind the Twins. Maybe. I love the Twins. So I hope they go all the way. But and they've picked up well. I mean, Josh Donaldson, of course, is there now as well, and they got some big hitters. They got some power hitters, good looking. I still think if you looking for a smoky, the Twins are it.
I had a chance to catch up with D. San Miguel Allen yesterday, and I went back and forth on a text here in the States. He's in Kansas City. They're with the 60-man squad. He's there, and had a chance where we reached out to him, and he actually reached out to me, which was great. He was on. I said, I've been wanting to get a hold of you and get you on the show. Said he's looking forward to getting on the show down the road with us. But he did tell me yesterday that all was well. I do know, talking to my contacts in Kansas City, they're making some plans to play their 60-man games. The big club will be at Kauffman. And I think I told you guys a couple of weeks ago, we thought that the Royals were going to play at their AA park down in Arkansas. They're actually going to be playing at T-Bone's, the 60-man squad, the taxi squad. We expect that they're going to be playing at T-Bone Stadium, practicing there, which is where the Kansas City T-Bones usually play in a normal season. And I'd actually talked to some folks in Kansas City and talked about D-San's locker is being set up yesterday, so I do know that. But yeah, good to see Luke checking in too. Luke, appreciate your support over the years. You're just a class guy, Luke Hughes, And by the way, I love to see that smiling face of his holding that young son. I'm telling you, that is so awesome. But really, really cool to see him as a father yourself. You know how that goes. Have a young kiddo. So D. Sam Miguel on the doorstep. You know, again, we talked about Whitefield, who's a defensive guy. D. Sam Miguel, you could plug him in a big league lineup now. I think you're okay. I don't think you're gonna. I mean, you're not gonna. You're gonna be able to get through a few games if he has to come play in the big leagues. I think you're gonna be fine. And I think that's a good thing. I mean, he's right on the doorstep, and I'm pulling for the guy.
Well, we talked about it last week because in this, in the COVID world, we don't know what will happen. Potentially D-Sound gets saddled with a starting pitcher, and maybe they start doing the whole catcher pitcher starts going ahead of time. Maybe they travel 2 days before the team again. I think probably really the biggest blow that any team could have is all of a sudden one of your starting pitchers is out of the rotation for COVID, and maybe maybe 2 of them are out of the rotation. So how they manage those starting pitchers and catchers could be hugely advantageous to someone like D-San, and he's hoping it's a chance.
It's my understanding, partner, that they're going to actually allow teams to take extra catchers, extra pitchers with a taxi squad with the big club. They won't be on the roster, but they'll be guys they can pull off and have to worry about flying across the country on the road, or in a normal season. For example, how it works in a normal season. When Jake Fraley got called the big leagues, he just caught a flight from a minor league city and joined the club wherever. Well, because of this situation, it might be a day for him to get there. Well, they want to, maybe 2 or 3 days to get there now with all the COVID deal. So they want these guys there close by, and you may see D-San on a team charter flight to Minneapolis or Chicago, and that's all good. But of course, Liam Hendricks with the Athletics, and that's gonna. He had a big year last year, All-Star, and then Lewis Thorpe rounds out. Both those guys are 40-man guys and big league roster guys, and expect to see them in action as well. Let's segue to the final couple of segments here. And Indie Ball update.
Before we get the Indie Ball update, which you're all things expert in Indie Ball, I've got to run to a meeting, so I'm going to let you wrap the show and tune out.
Yeah,
appreciate
by the way,
everyone.
before I let you go, I want to wish your wife happy birthday a day late. But I wanted to say,
yes, the big 4-0.
We're very fortunate, you and I, in this business, in the sports business, media business, to have great women behind us, and just what a valuable asset. I couldn't survive without my wife, and I know you couldn't survive without your wife. And happy birthday to your wife. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to your better half. Happy birthday to you. All right.
Yes, here's to us punching above our weight.
We are, mate. I'll let you go. I didn't know you were sneaking out on me early. Sorry about that. You go to your meeting, and
all good.
Next week we'll wear red, okay?
Sounds good.
All right, mate. Cheers. There we go. Paul Morgan right there joining me from Perth. We're going to wrap this thing up. I want to give you guys a little bit of a couple of notes from the American Association that relate to the Australian Baseball League. And right now, the only thing going is the American Association as far as really competitive baseball, besides Korea and Japan and Taiwan. But first off, Nate Sampson. You guys remember Nate Sampson last seen playing for the Melbourne Aces last year? Well, Nate is now his day number 2. He's with the St. Paul Saints. Nate, one of the best players I've ever seen as far as at the indie ball level. Spent 7 or 8 years in the Cubs organization. He's at nothing. He is the epitome of a ball player. When you say baseball player and you look him up in the dictionary, that's what this guy is. This was his first at bat after 3 months. He had not seen live pitching since spring training in Mexico, and he flies out. Well, that's not a highlight. But then again, the fact that he hit the ball after not seeing live pitching off the plane, pretty good. Here's Mikey Reynolds. Mikey Reynolds also with St. Paul. Reynolds, one of the 10-hit barrage. Here's one of the 10-hit barrage and a 10-hit inning for the St. Paul Saints. A little infield single for Mikey right there. And he had a really big week for the St. Paul Saints, but good to see him, former Adelaide. So you had a couple of guys, one from the championship winner in the Melbourne Aces, the import Nate Sampson, and then you also saw the Adelaide Giants own Mikey Reynolds, who's now playing in St. Paul. Left-hander Thomas Dormany as Sydney collected his first win in the American Association in the Chicago Dogs 8-3 win over Fargo. Now, what's going on here in the American Association? I got to give you guys an idea what's going on. They're playing in 4 cities, 3 bubble cities, and then Chicago is getting to play home and away at their ballpark. Milwaukee is a bubble. They're playing, actually Milwaukee and Chicago were a bubble. They split up and are now playing their games in their home ballparks. Sioux Falls, South Dakota, home of the Sioux Falls Canaries, they're sharing the bubble with the St. Paul Saints. So Sioux Falls and St. Paul started the season. Then they played back-to-back series. One is a home team, one is a road team. Then St. Paul left town, and Sioux Falls played a home series against Milwaukee. And then they left town, and now St. Paul's back home playing Winnipeg. Winnipeg, who's not playing in Canada this year, they're playing all their games in North Dakota, in Fargo Moorhead. The Redhawks, who do have some connections as well in the Australian Baseball League, they're playing. That's their bubble there, but they're also kind of shifting around in a 6-team schedule there. So, yes. And by the way, happy birthday, Tiana, too. We should have sang together, sweetheart. Should have. But yes, other notes from the Australian Baseball League guys that are playing in indie ball over in the States. You've got Dustin Beggs was actually the pitcher, the starting pitcher got the loss in that ball game against Dormany, the lefty, in that 8-3 win for Chicago. But Beggs is playing for the Fargo Moorhead Redhawks. Bit of a rough outing for him last week at 5 2/3 and 8 runs, but that was his last time. Michael Krause, the guy who's he's got 23 ABL home runs. I'm not 100% sure, but I believe that's the most of an import in his career in the ABL. I know he's not the single season high. That's not a single season high. The single season high would have been Brandon Tripp when he had the 14, when the 2000 would have been 13-14. Is that right? Tripp, who was the batting champion, Helms winner that year. He did have the single season record. Now, I know that Tripp has the Perth all-time home run import lead, but I'm not sure the ABL. I'm pretty sure from my notes I've got that I do believe Krause has 23 career ABL long balls over 4 teams. Played in 4 different places. Playing, I mostly remember him as being a part of Canberra. Played at Sydney as well. Played at Canberra twice and Sydney once, and then Brisbane. I'm pretty sure that Krause is and again, not officially, but I'm going to look this up, but I believe he's your all-time ABL import home run leader. We go for the records 1 week. We'll do that when we get closer to the ABL season. Once the schedule comes out and we kind of get in our ABL mode, we'll kind of see what the record watch is and who is out there who might be approaching record numbers. We talked about the Kennelly numbers over the years and what he did and what Luke's done. And speaking of Alan D. San Miguel, players like that. Cornell Prime, former Heater, drove in all 3 runs on a Fargo win a couple of nights ago. He's playing there in Fargo, and also West Darble, a member of Team Canada, went 3 for 5 in Winnipeg's 8-2 win 2 nights ago over Sioux Falls. And just a few of the names, and they're out there. They're more than that. That's a few of the names. Wes Helsbeck is another guy it's been out there. There's several others, but those are guys that had pretty good weeks this week. And of course, the Nate Sampson note there is Sampson joining the St. Paul Saints, and I know Nate fairly well, and he really enjoyed his time in Australia. And that's one thing that people, I don't know if you guys understand this, but when a guy like Nate Sampson comes over to Australia and has a great time and not just wins a championship, but has a great time and meets phenomenal ball players and enjoys his time, he goes back and people are going to ask him, players will ask him, how was winter ball for you? Man, Australia was great. And I'm telling you, more and more players are realizing that Australia playing baseball in the ABL, playing over in the ABL as opposed to Venezuela, the Dominican, to Mexico, to wherever in Latin America, the Caribbean, playing in Australia is the thing. And I think players are slowly realizing, and I tell this all the time, how many times I get asked on the road during the season, hey, man, tell me about the ABL. I get broadcasters and folks working the ticket office and all the time asking me, tell me about the ABL. And you know that happens to Nate Sampson. And you got guys like that over here. And I mentioned guys like Krause and Mikey Reynolds, for example, who are over here playing. And just the list goes on. We'll kind of keep you up to date on some of the highlights, not the entire roster, but some of the highlights. And a couple of things, too, I wanted to point out to you. A couple of guys I want to give you as we wrap this thing up, a couple of names of note that I thought would throw out there. This is the list of guys that are actually in 60-man camps now. And I was looking at a couple of names. I think you're going to, obviously, you've already got, guys like Mike Brousseau, G-Man Choi, but guys like that I think you're going to see, getting a lot more time in the bigs. I was looking down the list here and just kind of gazing at some of the possibilities. I think a guy like Buddy Reed's got a chance to maybe, especially with Oakland, maybe a chance there, especially if things don't go well for them, or they do go well for them. Either way, looking at a couple of these, of course, Ronald Acuna, everybody knows, but Pete Kozma is with the Braves organization. That's a kind of guy in that 60-man who's got big league time, who you could see easily cracking that 28, 26, whatever man roster, depending on the week it is, and how things go health-wise. You can easily see that happening. A guy like that, looking at players sort of on the cusp there. That's the kind of player looking at. I saw today. I thought it was kind of cool to see that Justin Williams with the St. Louis Cardinals organization. There's a long list of them, but you can see that that's on several sites. One of them being the association, the Australian Baseball League site, but a lot of different names here that you look at. But overall, you look at a guy like Whitefield, and again, seeing guys like that and Kozma, guys that are that have some value. And in this year, because of all bets are off, the possibilities are endless for players to find their way into the big leagues from the Australian connections, not just Australians, but guys that have played in the Australian Baseball League. That about wraps it up this week. Big show. I mentioned Alan de San Miguel coming up down the road. We reached out. We're looking forward to having Brooke Knight on down the road as well. Former Heat manager. We're going to catch up with him as well. I've reached out to him. We've also looking forward to having Tyler Anderson, the former Heat pitching coach, is scheduled down the road. And another few names as well. We're working on those as we get this thing going. Every Thursday night in the States, every Friday morning in Australia. We'll come your way. Paul will be in Perth or wherever else he is in Australia. Right now, he's in Perth, and we're kind of locked in our cities. He's in the West. I'm in the Southwest of the United States here in Dallas, and we're sitting in different parts of the world, though, but 10,000 miles away, bringing you baseball love with an Australian, big Australian hug, virtual hug here on Talking Baseball Australia. Baseball's best mate all year round. Big thanks to everybody that joined me here. Thanks for the kind words, Luke, and to see everybody else out there. Wendy Harold, GM, others out there. Jesse, good to see you as well. Spider, how you doing, mate? Good to see you out there, my friend. Good to see everybody out there checking in here. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter at Talking Baseball. It's just at TBA. It goes, just type in TB and TBA, and it'll be Talking Baseball. And Australia comes right up, Talking Baseball Australia. And you can also follow us on our Facebook page. You're following us right now, which is good. Our website, new and redesigned, a revamped website. It's coming. I've already got the initial template ready to go. We're going to have that thing going the next couple of days. By the time we get to opening day in the big leagues, hopefully we'll have the TBA website up. And also we're reworking our YouTube channel to get these shows kind of re-shown for you as well. But again, we're working hard for you guys to be baseball's best mate all year long. And it's the time of the show I hate the most, the time to say goodbye. A big thanks to everybody who joined me. Again, it's a tough time we live in now. Crazy times in the world. Virtual hug. I love all you guys. Please be kind. Show some love to somebody else. Show some empathy. Let's all try to be better people when it's all said and done. And looking forward to a 2020-21 Australian Baseball League. Before that, we're going to look forward to the MLB. But most of all, let's look forward to another great day tomorrow. Let's all love each other just a little bit more. Again, thanks for joining me. We'll see you guys next time on Talking Baseball Australia, baseball's best mate all year long. For Paul Morgan and myself, we'll see you later, everybody.
Buy me some peanuts and Cracker Jacks. I don't care if I ever get back for its roots.